What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of EJ's Press. I'm your host, EJ, and today we are going to be rambling on about a subject that has been going on for a while now, something that's starting to get under my skin a bit, and something I thought I'd bring to your attention. So today we are going to be rambling on about Captain Marvel. Now, originally this video was going to be one, however, there is a lot to unpack here, so we're going to take it piece by piece. This could be a 4-5 video series. I'm going to do my best to get them out to you today because the movie drops tomorrow in theaters. You might be able to get a showing tonight from, probably about 6 o'clock on, depending on where your theater is located, what they've done to procure that movie. However, officially the movie drops on March 8th, which is Friday, tomorrow. So I thought I'd get it out of the way. Now, EJ, you might be wondering, what the heck do you have to say about this? You're a white dude. Well, first of all, I'm a white dude who reads comics. I love superheroes. I write superhero fiction. I have followed, Spider-Man and the X-Men and Superman since I was a kid. I love the characters. I love reading comics. It's a unique medium. It tells great stories. And so it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I also really love Captain Marvel, who is not Captain Marvel. And there will be more on that later in this video because part one of our Captain Marvel rambling series is the character herself, Captain Marvel. So one of the biggest things I've noticed with the release of Captain Marvel coming up, the advertising, the press, everything surrounding the video, the movie rather, is people are a little confused as to who Captain Marvel is. Now, that's understandable. There have been a lot of characters to carry the name. The first one doesn't even happen to be owned by Marvel, isn't even called Captain Marvel anymore, and that is Shazam, whose movie's coming out later this year, just to add a little bit of confusion to it. So, originally, Shazam was known as Captain Marvel, and he was published by Fawcett Comics. DC eventually bought Fawcett Comics out after Marvel was created so that DC could own Captain Marvel, I think just to rub their faces in the competition. Now, Marvel in the late 60s, early 70s decided to put out their own competition to this, Captain Mar-Vell. Mar-Vell of the Kree was an alien warrior sent to Earth to kind of observe humanity and see if they'd be worthy allies in their war against the Skrulls. Now, this is kind of where the plot of Captain Marvel, the movie, seems to be taking inspiration, but Captain Mar-Vell was a man, and he had a supporting character, a U.S. Air Force officer who worked with NASA named Carol Danvers. Carol Danvers was given power bands that allowed her to simulate some of Mar-Vell's powers. Eventually, after Mar-Vell died, she would go on to inherit his full suite of powers. However, she would not inherit the name Captain Marvel until the 2010s. In Captain Marvel's death in the 1980s, upon that, a lady named Monica Rambeau picked up the title of Captain Marvel and held it for quite a while, but has recently fallen off the map as Marvel has decided to push Carol Danvers to the forefront as their equivalent of Wonder Woman. Now, that in itself is a story, because Carol Danvers, by and large, has been a side character to other characters. She's appeared on teams like the Avengers, and she spent several years in a coma when the X-Man, or X-Woman, as it were, Rogue, stole her powers by contact. That's what Rogue does. She takes your powers and your memories. It leaves you drained. It can hurt. It can even kill. But in this case, in the case of Carol Danvers, all it did was put her into a coma. Fortunately for her, it lasted several years, however, as Rogue ran around basically with the powers of Captain Marvel, or Ms. Marvel as she was known at the time. And then she woke up, Rogue lost the powers, Ms. Marvel came back, still didn't really have a big role. Now, the 2010s rolled around, and Marvel realized, as DC did its reboot with the New 52, Marvel realized they didn't have a competition for Wonder Woman. They had plenty of strong female characters. They had Sue Storm of the Fantastic Four. They had Jean Grey, Kitty Pryde, and Rogue of the X-Men. Some of their lesser-known characters included Medusa of the Inhumans, who really is the driving character, even though Black Bolt is technically the king, he doesn't do anything. Medusa does all the plot-driving action. but they didn't have a character who could carry a story on her own, or at least that was allowed to. And so they looked around and they found Captain Marvel, who at that point was known as Ms. Marvel. And they realized, well, Marvel's in her name, she hasn't really done anything in quite a few years, and we really need a flagship character who is a woman. Because Wonder Woman can carry a comic series on her own, has done since the 1940s, 1941. And yeah, Marvel said, hey, here we go. Not only do we have a powerful female character, but Marvel's in the name. This is great. We can take this D-list character, elevate her to A-list, and make people care about her, get an even, in terms of company position, an even bigger character than Wonder Woman. And on paper, it's a great idea. However, what resulted was not great. She had greatness thrust upon her, as it were, and she could not handle the challenge. And you might say, well, she's got her own movie now, EJ. What do you mean she can't handle the challenge? One, no one knows who she is still. It's been about 6 years since she was given the Captain Marvel moniker. She has not done anything significant since then. She's gone to space. I tell a lie. She did lead a second superhero civil war in the Marvel Universe 10 years after the first, in which she decided to enact essentially a minority report policy using a prophetic Inhuman to basically figure out, oh, there's a 1 in 10 chance that guy might commit a crime. We need to lock him up so it doesn't happen. Basically, every time she tried to act on it, it ended up doing what she thought she was going to stop. But it ended, and this is where this is a good evidence of the problem with Captain Marvel, because it ended with Tony Stark, and this was the first time I'd ever taken his side in anything in comics, with Tony Stark saying, no, don't do this, sacrificing himself, essentially, getting put into a coma himself, and ending the whole second Civil War, saying you can't imprison people for things they haven't done yet. Seems fairly straightforward and simple. But the last page of that series was the President of the United States saying, hey, I like your thinking. Talk to me about the future. So she messed up. She did a bad thing, something I think most of us can agree is a bad thing, and was rewarded for it. And that ties into a later point in the video. But on the real world side of things, as several people close to me are often apt to remind me, it's not real, EJ. On the real world side of things, on the shelves of comic book stores and bookstores, Captain Marvel does not move comics. Marvel has run into a bit of a problem where their new flagship character, their character who's supposed to be just as popular as Captain America, just as popular as Spider-Man and Iron Man and the X-Men, has come out, and no one buys her books. No one is interested in this character, and you might wonder, well, is it just because comics readers are a bunch of white male misogynists? I don't think so, because the number of female comic book readers on average, it was at about 25%. Since the 2000s, it's gone up to 30%, 30 to 35%. And what's happened is that it's still not selling comics. A third of regular comic book purchasers are women, so hopefully they're not misogynist. I don't expect an entire 2/3 of an industry's customer base to be misogynist either. So that means something else has gone wrong. It's not that she's not advertised. It's not that she's kind of left by the wayside by Marvel. Marvel continues to push her books. However, they have had to start her books again 8 times now. She, just this last month, 2 months ago actually, it is now March, so in January, she released her 8th #1 in the past decade, within the 2010s, her 8th #1, and I believe that was since 2013 or 14. So 5 to 6 years, her 9th #1, I should say. 5 to 6 years, she's had 8 books canceled. 8 series. She can't hold down a series for a year, which is really bad in comics. Most writers plan out arcs Most writers expect their characters, if not their tenure on the book, they expect the book to last several years down the line. You want that. Superman has had Action Comics in publication since 1938. He had his 80th anniversary last year, and Captain Marvel can't hold down 1 year. That's a big problem for Marvel, because this is the character they want to be successful. This is the character they want to be popular. So I suspect the thinking is, well, if comic shelves aren't selling, maybe let's try putting her in a movie. But they haven't thought about why she doesn't sell. And it's not because comics readers are misogynist. It's not because we just hate girls, because Wonder Woman has been selling since 1941. Batgirl has had several successful series that have wrapped. They've gotten to the end of their arc and wrapped, and there's no place in DC Comics line for a Batgirl book at the time. So they say, hey, this is a great place to end. Let's call it. We'll come back to her later. But there's never been a case of a Batgirl getting canceled because of poor sales, to my knowledge anyway. But Captain Marvel does, consistently. So the question then becomes, well, what's going wrong? Why do people love Wonder Woman? Why do people keep coming back to Batgirl? Why do teams like the X-Men, with large numbers of powerful female characters, usually in leadership positions, succeed where this solo female character fails? And it's because, going back to her performance in Civil War II as kind of an archetype, she can't fail. She is not written as a character. She's written as a message. Captain Marvel has been pushed for the past 6 years now as an invincible woman. A woman who is all-powerful, who never makes mistakes. Even when she does make decisions that everyone else around her thinks are mistakes, she is always 100% self-assured. She never doubts her choices, and she is never punished for bad choices. She is instantly better than any boy in the room, and she is automatically, anytime she comes around another character, they become worse at their specialty so that she can pick up the slack and show how much greater she is. She's overpowered. She is what is known as a Mary Sue, named for a fanfiction character. Long story. Basically, it's a character that does exactly those things, that has no flaws, has no weaknesses, is better than everyone else, and makes everyone else worse at their job so she can prove it. She has gone to various places. She's gone to space to fly with the Guardians of the Galaxy. She's now on the Ultimates, which is essentially a task force. It's like the Avengers, but bigger. The idea is that the Avengers handle Earth's problems, and the Ultimates are kind of an outer protection to prevent Earth from being attacked from space, from cosmic threats. She leads the Ultimates now. Like I said before, she led the Guardians. She fought with and essentially led the Guardians of the Galaxy for a while. She wasn't, as far as I remember, the official leader, but she basically took the role of leader. Everybody just listened to her immediately because, hey, it's Captain Marvel, and obviously she's the best, you guys. And the problem is she never earned it. It's the same issue as an unhero who acts unworthy and is just given powers. Kamala Khan, who, interestingly enough, inherited the name Ms. Marvel, so I begin to wonder if that's just a cursed name. But regardless, she never earns her position. She has never done anything to display the fact that she is worthy, and that's why she continues to fail. It's because she's given these things, and she is immediately this all-powerful character, this archetype of the girl power image. She is the strong, independent female who can't rely on anyone else, doesn't need to rely on anyone else, and anyone who says she's wrong is themselves evil. Not just incorrect, but bad. It is bad to stand in the way of Captain Marvel. You are the bad guy if you do so. And Marvel has decided that this is the character, not only that they want to bring into their films, and I understand, she brings a different flavor. She brings a bit of space action. She brings a bit of lasers, some really interesting intergalactic politics that, deal with other planets and the conflicts they have and the way those conflicts affect people. It's something that the MCU really hasn't had before because, we don't have any movies about protective other planets kind of overseeing large groups of, smaller cultures. We don't see any super advanced aliens walking around with tremendous cosmic powers being able to take on threats that Earth's heroes can't. We don't see groups of wacky, kind of goofy, fun characters flying around in a spaceship shooting lasers at each other. No, I can't do it anymore. We have Thor, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy. She is a combination of both with long hair and a stupid mohawk. It really looks ugly. But regardless, she is here ostensibly because Marvel needed a new female superhero. They needed a female superhero who could carry her own movie, but we have two of those already. We have Scarlet Witch, introduced in Age of Ultron, who has her own role in the universe. She's an enhanced human. We've never really explored what that actually means. In the comics, she's a mutant. But we've never explored in the movies what it means to be an enhanced human. We've never explored what that's done to her physically. We've kind of looked at the psychological damage during Civil War, kind of the issues she's faced. We've glanced at those, but there's a lot to unpack there, and Elizabeth Olsen is one of the best actors in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Black Widow is the other one I'd say we really needed a movie of her by now. We needed something after either Age of Ultron or after the Winter Soldier, where she dumps all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secrets, including her own, and says, I've got some business I've got to go take care of. What business? We never learn. That would have been the perfect place for a Black Widow movie because she's just had a big spotlight in Winter Soldier. People like her. People like Scarlett Johansson. They go to see Scarlett Johansson movies. It's a character she has embraced since Iron Man 2, actually, I almost said Avengers, but she's been in it since Iron Man 2 when she was kicking the crap out of Tony Stark's driver, Happy. Poor Jon Favreau. But why Captain Marvel? Why a character who has never been well developed in the comics, who continuously fails, who has been pushed on readers and is now being pushed on viewers as a messiah, as the most powerful, as the greatest, without having earned it either in the story or in the eyes of the audience, and is now taking center stage over characters we've gotten to know and love and really, really need to see more of, like as we have investment in characters like Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, Captain America, that sort of thing, where we want more of that. That's the people we care about. We kind of got that glimpse at the end of Infinity War of, oh, Captain Marvel's coming, cool. But we didn't get enough, I felt, of characters like Captain America or Black Widow, who basically just existed to be familiar faces. I wanted more of Cap. I wanted more of Black Widow, of Bucky, I don't even particularly care for Bucky, but I wanted more of him. I wanted more Falcon. I didn't get any of that. And now Marvel is now telling me that not only do you not get more of them, but now we're going to replace them. They are no longer the central characters. We're now bringing in a whole new character 6 weeks before Endgame drops to take over the entire universe immediately. And it's a character I know is not well written traditionally, and that makes me a little nervous. Anyway, that is a bit of background on Captain Marvel. That's a bit of background on what to expect in terms of where she's coming from in the comics. I'm sure the movie version will be a little different. There will be changes. I'm absolutely certain. We're not going to see her lose her powers to Rogue. We're not going to have her stand around being Ms. Marvel. We're not going to have her being beautiful. That's another thing that Marvel has done, is they've taken a beautiful woman who is very much this very attractive, kind of sexy superheroine, and they've toned that down a lot. The idea, I suppose, is that superheroes can't be beautiful. We can't show off the beauty of our female characters. They have to be wearing armor and leather clothes and not the fun kind. That have to be wearing things that make them look as boyish as possible. They cut off her hair. They have slimmed her down. She has very little muscle tone now. She has very little any sort of definition of any kind. And it's just been weird to watch her turn into Justin Bieber. So that's the character we've been given. That's the character that's going to be taking over the MCU. And that's something I guess we gotta look forward to now. But what do I know? I'm just rambling. Hey, did you enjoy the video? If so, go ahead and like and subscribe. It'll really help me out. Thanks.